So we've seen, Isaiah says unambiguously, that at the time of the flood, God released his wrath by hiding his face. We also saw that the phrase hide his face right throughout the Old Testament only ever means God withdraws, he never attacks. So how are we to make sense of what Genesis chapter 6 says about God's role? Genesis 6:7, English Standard Version. So the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created. Well, there you go. God is the direct, active agent of violence. Now listen, we can't just cherry pick Bible verses that we want. There we go. It says God did it. It's good enough for me. Well, Isaiah says God didn't do it. It's good enough for me. We can't. These tensions reveal that something's going on here that's foreign to our way of thinking. And if you've watched this whole series of teachings, you know the ancient Hebrew view is simple. What God allows, since he is the creator, is described as him actively doing. What he allows is attributed back to him because the buck stops with him because he made everything. Job was a classic case in point. The devil talks to God, says, let me touch Job, take away his stuff, and you'll see he's going to curse you to your face. So that God gives consent. He allowed it. The devil comes down and he smashes Job. His property, his animals, his servants, and even his children were taken. And what did Job say? The devil did it. Job said, the Lord gave, because he made everything, he's the creator, and the Lord has taken away. No, Satan took away and God allowed it. In the ancient Hebrew worldview, what God allows is described as him doing. Saul, who killed King Saul? We saw this. It says that Saul threw himself on his sword. Another verse says that God killed him. Who did it? Saul or God? Yes. What God allowed King Saul to kill himself is described as him doing. Why? He's the original cause. He is the creator. And we're going to see a couple more examples here. And this is how we harmonize these verses. These verses fit in the pattern that we have found in all these studies right throughout the Old Testament. What God allows is described as him actively doing. I send the flood. He hid his face. He stepped back. Enemy powers sent the flood. Exactly how it says in Moses' definition of wrath in Deuteronomy 31, verse 17. Israel will say in that day, when God has poured out his wrath on them, when he has hidden his face, that these evils have all come upon us because our God is not with us. That's how the wrath of God works. God pours out his wrath. At the time of the flood, he hides his face, he pulls back, and evil powers send the flood. Which evil powers sent the flood? We'll get to that in the next study. For now, let's have a look at the principle of what God allows is described as him actively doing. Just another two examples that I didn't do before, just so you can see that when he says, I'm going to kill him, and then he hid his face. This fits in with the continuity, the pattern, the paradigm that we've got all the way through the Old Testament, so it's very easy to understand. Look at these verses. In Deuteronomy 32, verses are back to back. That God did it and he didn't do it. Yeah, look, Deuteronomy 32, 21 and 23 looks like God did something. They have made me jealous with what is no God. They have provoked me to anger with their idols. Verse 23, I will heap disasters on them. God's going to do it. I will spend my arrows on them. God directly attacks. Except when we read the verse before, verse 20, we read something different. And he said in verse 20, I will hide my face from them, and I will see what the end will be. What? He's going to do it. He's not going to do it. And then I will see what the end will be. Well, God allows enemy arrows is described as him actively doing. But here we've got the phrase, I will hide my face, which means he didn't do it. He didn't do it. And then the next sentence says this, I will see what their end will be. Well, that's an observer looking on and as an external observer looking on something that's going on. Now, if you're doing the killing, you're not standing back here watching yourself do the killing. You see what's going on here? Why would you see what's going to happen to them if you did it? God is here an external observer, and I'll see what's happening. Why? What God allows is described as him actively doing. Enemies are going to send their arrows as God withdraws. And then God watches what's going to happen. It's not hard to understand. Another example, in Isaiah 63 and verse 6, the English Standard Version, looks like God is the active agent of violence. I trampled down the peoples in my anger. I made them drunk in my wrath. I poured out their lifeblood on the earth. Looks like God did it. Except when we go down to chapter 64, verse 7, which is the same story, we put in chapters and verses where we wanted. There is no chapters and verses in the original Hebrew text. The story continues on, and the I did becomes I didn't. Look, 64:7 English Standard Version of Isaiah. There is no one who calls upon your name. They've all left you. Who rouses himself to take hold of you. Humans left him. For you have hidden your face from us. I will. You have hidden your face from us? Yes. What God allows is described as him actively doing. And he says, you have hidden your face from us and have made us melt in the hand of our iniquities. Their sins punished them. And it says God did it. What God allows is described as him actively doing. Well, does the text of the flood hint that God withdrew his presence? Yes, it does say that. He said, I will blot out human race. But is there anything, even in the flood account, that God actually stepped back? Next time.